Sure, I'm John Kamasa with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and we're here today at the Root River Steelhead facility in Racine. This is one of three collection facilities that we have in the state of Wisconsin. Again, the Root River here in Racine, the Buzz Bazadney and Addermis Fisheries facility on the Kewaunee River, and then the Strawberry Creek facility in Sturgeon Bay. Strawberry Creek only does Chinook salmon in the fall, but the Bazadney facility and the Root River facility both do steelhead in the springtime and also coho salmon in the fall.
Okay, now what are we looking at here, this big granite
Yeah, this
stone?
is just a nice welcome to the facility. The facility's been in existence since about 1993, and it was a cooperative effort between the Salmon Unlimited as a local fishing club that was very instrumental in helping get this facility built. Obviously very interested in propagating the trout and salmon that get stocked into Lake Michigan to keep the fishery alive and well. The other team would be the Wisconsin DNR, and then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service also contributed to helping build this facility. And again, the main thing is that we propagate the fish here primarily to restock Lake Michigan. Without restocking the lake, these fish wouldn't exist. All these fish are stocked into tributary rivers that feed into Lake Michigan, and the Root River and the Kewaunee River are what we call brood rivers, so those are two rivers that get a lot of the stocking. And then there's several other tributary streams all the way from Kenosha all the way to Door County that get stocked with salmon and trout, brown trout, steelhead, coho, and Chinook as well. But those are the two brood rivers, the Kewaunee River and the Root River. Basically what they do is they've got the fish kind of all sectioned off now, or crowded up we call it, and they'll crowd up the fish into, the first process is called the lift basket. We'll crowd up about 2 dozen fish into the lift basket. Those fish are lifted up into a stainless steel tank that's filled with well water, and then we administer carbon dioxide gas into that tank full of water. And what that does, it puts the fish to sleep. Without putting the fish to sleep, they're very, very strong, and it's very hard to hang on to those fish. So that helps us hang on to those fish. They'll identify the fish then as one of the two strains, a Chambers Creek or a Ganaraska, or if it doesn't have any clip, they wouldn't be able to tell what strain it was. Some of the fish then will be spawned if they are in ripe condition. Otherwise, the fish will just be weighed and measured, and then from there they'll be put into a recovery tank. That tank also is a big stainless tank filled with fresh water, well water, and then we administer oxygen into that tank, and that's where the fish recover. And then from there, once the fish are up and swimming around, we send them down a return tube, and that tube puts them upstream of the facility, and then they can continue their upstream migration all the way to the Horlick Dam. There's about 6 miles from the harbor to the dam. The facility here sits at about the midway point of their 6-mile journey. We only spawn Chambers Creek strain with other Chambers Creek, and we only spawn Ganaraska with Ganaraska. So again, if a fish doesn't have any fin clips, we're not able to positively identify that fish as either of the two strains. That fish would automatically be passed upstream. So there's the majority of fish are not spawned here, they're just passed. We only spawn a few of the fish that are scrutinized and make sure that they are the right strain.
Now the steelheads, don't the steelheads, they'll lay the eggs, and do they die right away or not?
They do not. They are a true trout, so they can live to old age, and old age I would guess would be 10, maybe 10 plus years of age, 10, 12 years.
Wow.
Compared to the Chinook salmon lives to age 4, it spawns and dies. The coho salmon lives to age 3 and spawns and dies. The rainbow trout, the brown trout, can live many years after reaching sexual immaturity, which is age 3.
Okay, is there any way of really knowing how old a fish is?
Well, the only certain way would be to take a scale, some scales off those fish and put it under a microscope. then you can read the annual rings that appear on the scale. These fish are planted into the river during a stage in their life called smolting, and it's during that stage called smolting when they're very impressionable. They'll actually imprint to the scent of the river. What I mean by that is the fish will actually memorize the scent of that river when the fish are stocked at about a year old. They'll out-migrate to Lake Michigan. Then when they reach sexual maturity at age 3, they'll know where to run back up to spawn their home stream, and that's what I mean by imprinting. So most of the fish that we see here at the root were stocked at the root. So this is the face of the dam. So again, this was built in about 93. This is where we can actually stop the fish's upstream migration. The biggest thing we do here is we actually put some logs in the dam, and what we do is we raise up the level of the water a little bit on the upstream side, just enough to flood our pump chamber, and then we'll pump river water into the facility. The water runs through the facility and then down our fish ladder, and that's where the fish are attracted to swim up. That flow coming down the ladder actually attracts the fish to enter the ladder and swim up into the facility. So this is where we stop them. There are some lift gates on there as well. If the water level raises up, we can raise those gates on there to stop the fish's migration and kind of guide them towards that ladder. All the area surrounding the facility is a fish refuge, so anglers aren't allowed to fish right in the facility itself. 100 feet downstream and 100 feet upstream, you're not allowed to fish. So that's the main thing, just that the fish that are in this area are protected. Anglers catch a tremendous number of fish. It's a fantastic angling opportunity. But they realize that we need to catch a few fish to keep the program going, only taking a few thousand eggs every spring just to keep the whole system alive. Okay, so now we're just kind of looking at the top view of the fish ladder. So again, the fish's migration is stopped at the dam, and this area here, this covered area, is where the fish are swimming up. There's about 7 steps in the ladder. The fish migrate from the level of the river all the way up into the level of the facility. And we rely on the fish's athletic ability to jump and swim upstream for us to catch the fish, and that's what draws them into the facility. So we'll go down below and take a look at the underwater viewing window now. We'll be able to see some fish in the window. Okay, so here we are now. We're just about to enter the underwater viewing window. We've got a number of educational signs that are posted up here. So folks can come to the facility anytime, any day of the week, and read our signs. We have a volunteer from Salmon Unlimited that raises and lowers the underwater viewing window for us on a daily basis. So when the facility is up and running, then they can see the live fish right through the window. Big attraction. So hopefully we'll see a few fish here in a minute, but so you can kind of see a few fish coming. Here's some coming upstream. So this is the final step now, right at this wall. Once the fish clear that last hurdle, then they'll be up and captured in the facility. They're actually captured in the facility, and then once they're in here, the crew will get in there with their waders and move the fish around with big screens, and then crowd them into different areas of the moat system here. And then again, a few dozen fish at a time, they'll lift them up into our lift basket. Yeah, so they've got the fish in the knockout tank now, and the one thing they do is they actually clip a little part of the tail as they remove the fish from the knockout tank, and that's so that we can tell that we caught the fish in the facility. Sometimes the fish we'll send them down the return pipe, but they actually go downstream and come back up the ladder. So that way, once we see a fish with the tail clip, we'll know that we've already seen that fish in the facility. So once they take them out of the knockout tank, then they're going to weigh and measure the fish. If they're ready to be spawned, they'll spawn the fish. Otherwise, then they'll just put them in the return tank here. And then from the return tank, they'll be put down this tube, and that'll take them upstream of the facility where they continue their upstream migration.
Now, what is this little room right in here then?
That's where they're actually spawning them. So again, if they've determined they've got some fish that are ready, then they'll pass them behind that wall, and they'll remove the eggs. Generally, they put air inside the body cavity, and that'll force the eggs out of the female, and then they'll add the milk or the sperm from the male, add the fresh water to the eggs, and that'll fertilize the eggs, and then from there they'll put them in a B vitamin mixture where they'll water harden for about 2 hours.
Water hardened at a certain temperature though, right?
Right, at about 50 degrees. Our well water is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so that they'll handle the eggs that way. And then before they leave, after that 2 hours, they'll disinfect the eggs with an iodine solution before they transport them to the hatchery. And again, the term that we use would be ripe, where the fish is gravid. Basically, you know, all those eggs are in the ovary probably since last fall or certainly over the winter time. But as the eggs are ready to be removed, that ovary fills with ovarian fluid, and when it's their time to go, then the eggs come out very easily. When they're tight or hard, then the eggs don't come out with squeezing them by hand. So that's when we know the eggs are ready to come out, ready for us to spawn them, when they come out very easily.
That's how it's supposed to work, except for she's not real happy about helping us out here.
What exactly do you do?
I just take the ovarian fluids off of the egg, and then I make a pool of 5 fish, and we test it for viruses.
And where do you test it?
Usually at the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Lab.
And that's in Madison?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you work there then?
No.
Okay.
No, I just work for the DNR.
So now, how do you go about doing this?
So I get a sample of eggs, and then I just extract a bit of the fluid off the top, and then I put it in another tube. But I've already done that.
You already did that, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
So yeah, that's pretty important. She's actually sampling that. Yeah, we got the whole Steelhead, the ovarian fluid. That's one of the things we do. Like I said, the other folks are taking a lot of other tissue samples over there at the table as well, some of the organs. So once the eggs are spawned then and they're fertilized here, then they go into a vitamin mixture called thiamine or B1 vitamin, and the eggs will water hard in there for about 2 hours. Then what they'll do is take those eggs out of there, put them in an iodine solution that disinfects the eggs, and then the eggs are ready to be taken back to the hatchery. They put them back in the B1 vitamin mixture, take them back to the hatchery. Then once they get to the hatchery, they enumerate the eggs and put them in incubators.
Incubators?
Yep. They'll actually incubate for about 45 days or so at about 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
But in water?
Right, in water.
Okay.
They're just a big jar with fresh water flowing over them. That's the biggest thing. That's why we're here, actually. I mean, the river conditions are not consistent. What I mean by that is that at the hatchery, the temperature is generally a solid 50 degrees, 365 days a year. There's a good oxygen supply, but here on the river, the temperature fluctuates a lot, the oxygen content fluctuates a lot. There's a lot of sediment in the water that can cover the eggs and deprive them of oxygen and kill them.
Okay.
So that's pretty much why we're here propagating the fish, is that we've got great conditions at the hatchery.
Now, do you put the sperm in, Don, right here?
Correct. Yep. They once they remove the eggs from the female, then they'll add the sperm from the male. And again, the key to that is then they add about a quart of fresh water. It's well water, that same temperature, about 50 degrees, and that'll activate the sperm. Then the sperm will swim or be alive for about 15 seconds up to 2 minutes. So they'll let that pan sit there for about 2 minutes, and then they'll rinse that sperm out and then put them in that B1 vitamin mixture or that thiamine. If they get ahead of schedule where they have more males than females, they can actually remove the sperm from the male. And again, the key is they didn't add any water to it. So in those Dixie cups there are some samples of sperm, and then they can add the sperm at a random time. So that's what Tom's going to do now. He's got a bucket of eggs here. Each female is about 4,000 to 5,000 eggs, and each female has about 4,000 to 5,000 eggs in her ovary. And so now Tom has added the sperm to that bucket there, and now he added about, like I said, about a quart of fresh water, and now that bucket's going to sit off to the side there. That's where the fertilization actually occurs.
So now the eggs are going in then, or?
Yep. Well, again, that bucket now is Lynn put it up on the shelf there. She got her watch there, checking the time, and again at about 2 minutes. Then once those eggs are ready, now she's pouring off the excess sperm, and then she'll rinse them with clean, fresh water, and then put them into the vitamin water.
Okay. These eggs, the sperms are already in these eggs then?
Yep.
Okay.
Honestly, they live, once you put the sperm, once you put the milk in there and activate it with water, they live for like 15-20 seconds and they're done.
Oh no.
So they do their job and they get out.
Now this is the vitamin water that you're putting
Yes,
in?
thiamine, vitamin B1 thiamine. Then the water harden in that. The water harden for like 2 hours, and then we'll after those 2 hours are up, we can handle them again. We'll disinfect them in an iodine, 100 parts per million iodine, and then once we get back to the hatchery, we'll disinfect them one more time before we put them away.
Now how many hatcheries are there in Wisconsin?
Oh, I think there's 13. I'm trying to think. There's hatcheries and then there's rearing stations. So the hatcheries actually do what we're doing here, with the spawning eggs, the spawning fish, and raising them for eggs. The rearing stations will take fish that have already been raised up to 3-4 inches and finish them at their hatcheries. So then they're transferred from. We don't do any transfers like that, but like Wild Rose does a lot of that. The northern hatcheries take fish from them, so they'll get transferred up to the different rearing stations and get raised up to size.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I think there's like 13, but there's been some shutdowns, and with the budget cuts, there's going to be a few more shutdowns, sounds like, so we'll see. We want to be real gentle with them, that's why we let them water harden for 2 hours, so that once they're water hardened, we've got about, I'm trying to think, I think it's like about 8 or 9 hours from the time that you actually take the eggs until when you're supposed to have them put away, is that right? Or from after they water harden? 48. 48?
At 50 degrees.
So this water has to be a constant temperature then? Does this water have to be a constant temperature?
Oh, we tried to. I mean, we'll keep them out of the shade. The water at the hatchery that they're going into is 46 degrees or 48 degrees. So you don't want a huge temperature difference there. So this water is what, at 54, Cheryl said? Well, this is coming out of the well, so this is a little colder, so.
Now, where will these be going right now, what we're looking at?
Kettle Moraine Springs Fish Hatchery.
Okay, all right. And then basically they hatch and everything there, huh?
Yeah, we'll raise them from egg to stock and boat. The whole life cycle, or whole hatchery cycle. Yeah, they'll hatch in about probably 30 days.
Is that right? They'll hatch in 30 days?
Yeah, it takes a while to develop.
So these folks are mostly from the Madison area, but what they're doing is they're our fish health specialists.
What exactly are you doing, man?
I'm drawing blood to test for, hopefully, a test that we want to validate for live animals. So we wouldn't have to sacrifice fish in order to test for different diseases. So that's the...
And then these samples go to Madison?
They do. They go to the veterinary diagnostic lab. So she's been basically heavily tranquilized.
Now, what kind of schooling have you had to have such a wonderful job as this?
I'm a veterinarian.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I went on and did a program that's offered here in Wisconsin. It's the fish health certification that they offer for veterinarians to specifically go out and work in the fish health field.
And then these are all labeled already, so you know exactly...
No, I label the tubes with their ID numbers that they're tags there. And then they're going to be sampled, lethal samples will also be collected from them. Unfortunately, those are the tests that are validated. Luckily today we get to keep all the meat from it for the food pantry.
Oh, so now these are all going to a food pantry then?
Yep, in that bin we gutted them, and so they get to have salmon.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So,
And every year they check 60 fish of each strain, so 60 Ganaraska and 60 Chambers Creek. Generally speaking, 30 females, 30 males of each strain, and they're checking the fish's general condition, fat content, overall health and condition, and then they're going to take certain organs they're going to sample as well, the kidney, the spleen, livers.
Now maybe you could tell me what we're doing right here.
Sure. We're collecting samples of internal organs to check for different fish diseases. And some of the diseases we look for are viral hemorrhagic septicemia virus, bacterial kidney disease, furunculosis, and some of those are caused by viruses or bacteria. And we also do a general health assessment of the fish, just looking at all the internal organs to make sure that whether they're normal or not.
Now, how did you ever get this job?
I was a student up at Stevens Point studying parasites of ruffed grouse, and the person who had my position at that time, in addition to studying fish health, he also was in charge of wildlife health. So I got to know him because of my graduate work, and when I was ready to graduate, he needed some help, so I went down to Madison and started working for DNR.
Boy, so you've been there for quite a time then,
For
huh?
a long time, yep.
That's excellent. You like the job?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do. It's a nice job.
Is there if there's any kids that are watching the show, what would you tell them how to get started in something like this? Become a volunteer in something like?
Well, I think volunteering volunteer, if you like working with animals and are interested in their health, you might have opportunities to work with veterinarians or at a zoo or a pet store or your local fisheries biologist. And then also just to be curious about things and try to understand if you see red spots on a fish, what does that mean? And so be curious and observant to be a good biologist, and not be too squeamish because we have to deal with the inside organs and have to be okay with cutting open fish. I don't know, this is Dr. Tom Riggs.
Hi, Doctor.
He's working with us today, and he might have some other thoughts.
Yeah, please. Any thoughts you have, Doc?
Well, a comment about kids getting started in this. Many of the schools have mentorship programs where, as a part of a regular class study, they can go and work with a local veterinarian, whether it's small animal, large animal, or specialty work like this, and see if they have a liking for it and continue and get some guidance as far as college course of study and that type of thing from their mentor.
So what exactly are you taking out all of the organs now on these fish?
No, we're just examining the organs, and we're taking specific specimens for both bacterial and viral cultures, primarily from the kidney and the spleen. And we also are saving the intestinal tract for parasitic exam at a later date.
So you can't do any testing here. I mean, you're going to have to send this to Madison then?
That's correct. We just make observations on gross observations. If we see parasites, things of that nature, which are able to see with the naked eye, we would comment on it. Well, I've come to this lately. I was in small animal practice, retired, and then the University of Wisconsin and the Department of Ag have a course in training for people to do fish health inspection. And I went into that program, and now I'm getting some field training from some excellent people, such as Susan.
Yeah.
So a lot of ways to get here from there.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, here we are at the return pipe. This is the end of the line for the fish. Once they come through the facility, they come down this return pipe here, and then they're returned back to the river. They've got another 3 miles to navigate before they get up to the face of the Horlick Dam. So that's the end of the line here at the Root River Steelhead facility. Thanks for letting us come along today for a fun journey. And again, the Root River is one of 3 collection facilities in the state of Wisconsin. The Root River, Kewanee River, and the Strawberry Creek facility in Sturgeon Bay. So thanks again.